You know, I saw Graziano fight Sugar Ray in 1952. I took a train to Chicago. Maybe you should interview me.
Maybe I will.
During the long, rich history of professional boxing, there have been many legends of the sport from famous rivalries whose names are inseparable, like Muhammad Ali and Smokin' Joe Frazier, like Evander Real Deal Holyfield and Riddick Big Daddy Bo, like Floyd Money Mayweather and Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, like Rocky Marciano and Rocky Graziano? Huh?
I thought you were writing a book about Rocky Marciano.
Well, you can't talk about one without the other.
This is Rummy's Corner. I don't know shit about boxing. But as a longtime boxing fan of nearly 40 years, and as someone who has been involved in an awful lot of nerdy boxing discussions over the years, many involving Rocky Marciano or Rocky Graziano, the only time I couldn't talk about one without talking about the other was when I was specifically discussing that particular scene from the legendary HBO series, The Sopranos. Vito's choice of cover, that he was writing a book about Rocky Marciano, is a peculiar choice from a character who was otherwise far more intelligent than most of the mobsters in the series. Vito was ambitious. Vito was sharper than most of his peers. He was a seasoned criminal and a very good earner, and he paid his dues, even making kills when necessary. Like the time he snuck up behind Jackie Jr. like a stealth assassin, and got the job done with Jackie Jr. none the wiser to his inconspicuous lethal presence. Vito was promoted to captain after Ralphie slept with the fishes. And after Vito lost a considerable amount of weight through hard work and dedication, he became bolder. Indeed, he became so bold that he briefly had aspirations for the top spot when Tony's life was in the balance, compliments of Uncle June. But as Vito became more bold, he also became more reckless in terms of keeping his secret by going to gay bars and risking exposure. Ultimately, Vito was caught dancing at a gay bar dressed up like the motorcycle guy from the Village People. Vito was smart enough to see his own downfall coming, so he fled to what appeared to be a paradise for homosexuals in New Hampshire. Live free or die. Initially, Vito was probably only intending to pass through the area until he finalized the next part of his plan, but he was soon smitten with the ever-charming Johnny Cakes. And that is when the entire cover story came into play, when Vito inexplicably claimed he was writing a book about the great Rocky Marciano. Did you know that Carl the Cobra Frotch defeated George Groves in front of 80,000 screaming fans at Wembley Stadium? Oof, madame, he only ordered battered onion rings. Vito's piss-poor cover story probably resulted from a blend of arrogance and panic. As a seasoned con man who knew he was smarter than most of his fellow mobsters, Vito was probably used to bullshitting people all the time. He probably figured since most people don't know shit about boxing, that it was a pretty safe bet for him. Vito was likewise long living a double life, the exact type of thing that landed him in his predicament in the first place. Within the greater lifestyle of a mobster in the Sopranos universe, being gay is generally something that was frowned upon. There are many examples of this throughout the series. Indeed, the gay lifestyle was almost like an omnipresent fear among the mobsters. First, we have Junior explaining that if the guys ever found out he was going down on his lady friend, it might indicate he is gay. Then we have the scene where Tony grows perturbed after Chrissy asked him if Gary Cooper was gay. Furio strong-armed those two punks for his own cut of their money, and he proceeded to mock the duo in Italian, claiming they sucked each other's schlongs. Richie Aprile was ashamed of his own son for possibly being gay, and this shame ultimately led to his final confrontation when Janice gunned him down while he was trying to eat some pasta. Then we have Carlo explaining that it doesn't matter if he's married with kids, citing Elton John as an example. Silvio was quick to chime in that he believed Rock Hudson also fit the bill. The omnipresent fear of the homosexual lifestyle wasn't limited to the mobsters themselves, but it often extended to their wives as well. Carmela is angered when Meadows' college friends refer to Billy Budd from the famous novella as being gay, and she arduously defends his heterosexuality. And of course, when Carmela first learns that Finn witnessed Vito giving head to a security guard, no one is more shocked and abhorred at the discovery Vito was gay than Miss Eat Your Money Got herself, Rosalie. Just look at her reaction. Just look at it. We also have the moment where Tony preemptively gets very defensive with Melfi when he insisted he never had a homosexual encounter during his time spent in the can. Also, even though we don't know how long Phil was in the can for, we know he spent considerable time in the can too. And Phil went so far to admit that he compromised. And later in the series, he is ultimately hiding inside of a closet as he exacts his revenge on Vito for the perceived sin of being a homo. The language used in certain scenes almost feels like a set of connected clues when viewed together.
The guys that work for me are asking for head. His head. What the fuck?
You want compromise? How's this?
They can't be strangers to male-male sexual contact.
Well, you're gonna pay us for that.
Well, that's nice.
20 years in the can. I wanted manicot. I compromised. I ate grilled cheese off the radiator instead.
Just for the record, my incarceration was very short term, so I never had any need for any anal,
I wanted to fuck a woman, but I compromised.
You think I'm lying, don't you? About when I was in jail.
I've given you no indication I think you're lying.
20 years in the can.
What are you gonna do? There's no women there.
I wanted to fuck a woman, but I compromised.
You're there 5, 10 years.
20 years in the can.
Vince saw him giving some guy a blowjob.
Regardless of whether Phil Leotardo's wrath towards Vito stemmed from Phil being a latent homosexual or not, the point is the mobsters didn't approve of this lifestyle. There is further evidence of this when Tony learns that Vito was outed, and his entire crew is outraged. They were mad enough when they thought Vito was the one getting the blowjob.
When the security guard was sucking him off.
Well, it was the other way around.
What?
Vito was blowing the security guard.
Son of a bitch! Catching, not pitching.
Vito knew the writing was on the wall, and he fled to what at first glimpse appeared to be a homosexual paradise from Vito's perspective, where he fell in love with Johnny Cakes. Which brings us back to the fact that Vito don't know shit about boxing. In addition to the claim you can't talk about one without the other, with regards to Marciano and Graziano, Vito also had the wrong year when Marciano defeated the great Joe Louis, who was well past his prime in 1951. Vito was assuming most people don't know shit about boxing, and he wasn't counting on the fact that the gay-friendly community would have a knowledgeable old boxing fan or an intelligent fellow like Johnny Cakes, who had apparently done more research on the matter than Vito himself before trolling the fake cover. It's strange that Vito, sharp as he was, couldn't come up with a better cover story. After all, Vito was portrayed as a virtual baseball encyclopedia, at least when it comes to the New York Yankees and their 4-game sweep over Finn's Padres back in '98. Vito probably could have rolled with the con better had he said, for example, he was writing a book dedicated to the career of Joltin' Joe DiMaggio, or the great Derek Jeter, or perhaps even Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball himself. Instead, Vito miscalculated, underestimating those around him. This was symbolic of his bigger miscalculation, that he could flee to safety and put the life behind him. Vito was sharp enough to accomplish this had he chosen to do so, but the realities of his new life hit him hard. Vito didn't like putting in a hard day of honest work, always looking at his wristwatch and waiting for his lunch break where he could take a siesta. Vito would likewise quickly become bored in his new life with Johnny Cakes, missing the old high-stakes card games and the accompanying rush that comes from gambling and other illegal activities he enjoyed during his time as a major player in the criminal underworld. Vito simply couldn't resist the lifestyle. Vito never left the mob by choice. He left out of necessity, and it didn't take long for him to try and work his way back in, leaving the safe comfort of his new life and putting his life on the line. This cost him his life, as it didn't take Phil long to track him down, where he ordered his henchmen to shove cue sticks up Vito's bottom, further indicating that Phil had probably spent his entire life in the closet outside his stint in the can, however long that may have been. Vito had the chance to live free or die, and ultimately he chose to die. At the end of the day, Vito Spatafore was just another low-life scumbag like the rest of the mobsters in the Sopranos universe. He just so happened to be living a secret life as a closeted homosexual. But that is not what ultimately defined his character. Being a degenerate criminal mobster is what truly defines who he was. And in that sense, Vito was no different than Tony Soprano or Phil Leotardo. On that front, they were all equally scummy, and Vito Spatafore don't know shit about boxing. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and have a wonderful night.
I think I see a rabbit or a squirrel. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a possum.
Maybe he was a homo. Felt there was no one he could talk to about it. That happens too.
I'm a fucking captain now. You don't talk to me like that.
Oh, come on, guys.
Don't put your hands on me.
Chrissy, for Christ's sake.
Fuck all of you.
Hey, motherfucker!
What's so terrible about pleasing a woman?
South of the border, down Mexico way.
It's a sign of weakness, and possibly a sign that you're a fanook.
What the fuck happened to Gary Cooper? That's what I'd like to know.
He died.
A married man with kids.
Nah, that don't mean shit. Elton John was married.
Yeah, Rock Hudson too. I think.
The fundamentalist Christians, the abused cowboys, the gays, whatever the fuck.
He was gay, Gary Cooper?
No! Are you listening to me?
Here's your Johnny Cakes. I gotta warn you, they're addictive.
When he was always talking about greasing the union, who knew that's what he meant?
I had to leave. My home, my contracting business, my wife, my kids.
Are you drunk? It's not even 11 o'clock.
You think it's easy?
AIDS?
Nobody's got AIDS. I don't want to hear that word in here again.
11:30. Has to be. Look at the angle of the sun.
Maybe even 11:45.
Fucking Vito, through sheer hard work, turned himself into my best earner. I don't even know if I'd have the new boat without him. He's a come-from-behind kind of guy. What are you gonna do? There's no women there.
I wanted to fuck a woman, but I compromised.
You're there 5, 10 years.
20 years in the can.
Sometimes you tell lies so long, you don't know when to stop.
Ben saw him giving some guy a blowjob.